Hello, and welcome to It's Already In You podcast. We are your hosts, Liz
and Jenine, nutrition and movement experts, mothers and business owners, obsessed with helping you quiet the noise of diet culture.
Seeing through the false advertising and promises of our food and fitness industries, helping you discover that everything you need to upgrade your health and well-being is already in you. Hey guys, we are here today with a bottom line episode. So just as a reminder, these are episodes that we take a more specific topic versus a broad conversation that we have often, and take that specific topic and do a little research on our own time, and then come to the podcast to share some of that education, some of that research, our point of view, and eventually our bottom line. And so the topics that we choose are things that we either have heard from you that you want to learn more about, or we think that the, general person who is out there shopping, picking food, choosing exercise, whatever it may be, would benefit from. So today we are going to talk about eggs, which sounds so wild and exciting.
So many people have questions about eggs. Like, should I eat them? Should I not eat them? I hear they're good. I hear they're bad. Yeah. So eggs are our big topic. And when we drove in to research, and it's funny, you all should know that Liz and I don't do this research together. We do it separately. And we don't know what each other's going to say when we come back together. But obviously, we have respect for each other's research and what we end up finding out. And it's exciting for even us to hear what the other found out. I am going to preface this all with, I feel like I need to do a lot more due diligence when it comes to just a bigger reach as far as research goes. I want to see, just from what I found out in our country about the research and the studies, the peer-reviewed literature around eggs. So strange to say it. That I would like to take a deeper dive into it. So we're going to call this part 1 on eggs.
Yes. Yeah. We want today, you're going to leave with let's say basics on what you're looking for when you do purchase eggs, what's on the labels, some myths that have come up, or maybe some themes that have come up around heart disease and cholesterol, and, are they good? Are they bad? Are they great are they a good protein source? And so I think those are all things that we can probably relate to in our day-to-day life, or we've heard from. And then beyond that, there is definitely way more opportunity to dig even more. And Jenine brought some of that to our pre-conversation from what she was looking through. So like you said, this is part 1. We'll move into part 2.
We'll still have bottom line.
Yes.
But it's going to be one of those bottom lines that has an asterisk.
Yes. That's a good way to say it. So let's start. So obviously, eggs have been around since the beginning of time. They are a source of protein. They have a lot of nutrients within the eggs. So things like copper, iodine, vitamin A, D, B12, choline, folate. So there is nutrients within eggs. I think that is something that we can all stand on. Yeah. Over the years, what has happened is that eggs have been connected to cholesterol and heart disease. And are they good for you, or are they bad for you? Eggs have also been connected to protein source. I want to build muscle. I'm a weightlifter. I know you've talked about your husband before, I think more for fitness reasons, consuming eggs at certain points of time. So they definitely have been connected to, I guess, some positives and some negatives throughout kind of the years. So Jenine, when you think of how kind of that has evolved, kind of like when we were kids, and it was just like, eat your breakfast, have an egg, and then it went into kind of a time period where maybe they were told that they were bad for you, and then kind of cycled back to protein, and this is what you need to have. And
yeah, I feel like in my lifetime that there's been so many cycles of eggs having a good name, a bad name. Like I feel like when I was younger, we only ate the yolk because that tasted better. And then we found out that the yolk wasn't good and you should only eat whites. And then everybody was eating egg whites. And then it wasn't good. And then it was really good. And if you were a bodybuilder, you were drinking eggs. They were raw eggs. You weren't even cooking them. So there's been a lot around the types and how we've consumed eggs over the years. And like you said, thousands of years. I'm going to say that thousands of years ago, we were eating eggs like in the wild.
Yeah.
If you go to somewhere like Costa Rica, the eggs are on the counter. They're not in the refrigerator. Like there's so many differences of, especially in America, the way that our eggs are produced and production and raised and all of those things that I find myself with my biggest concern being, I think we need to look at the quality of the eggs to start because I don't even think, I'm not sure that this research is even looking at that
quality
point, right? Like, are they pasture raised, organic? And then everyone gets very confused about all the different types of eggs that you have a choice of on the shelf. And it's interesting because I have friends that have gone to Costa Rica. My daughter's in Europe right now, and she'll say, like, she goes to get eggs. There's only one kind of egg.
Yeah.
And in Costa Rica, they don't even put them in the refrigerator. Like, they're literally just hanging out there on the counter or wherever outside. Where they
just
lay
were
them.
grabbed. Yes, they probably went out back that morning and brought them fresh to the counter. So knowing that most of the eggs that people are getting in America aren't fresh from their backyard or farmers markets, and if they are, that's amazing. But majority
some people have chickens.
Yes. Yep. The majority of us are going to the grocery store. So when we're at the grocery store and we're looking at the array of options, because there really is a lot, and also the price point, and I'm not even talking about eggs currently, because obviously there's like some extreme situations happening.
This wasn't on purpose.
Yes,
like talking about eggs because you can't get them.
You can't get them, or if you get them, you're spending $25. No, and that's funny. We didn't even touch on that when we were talking about this pre. Yeah. So let's just pretend this is like a year ago. You would go to the market and you would see a variety of eggs and a variety of words. Like, what does this even mean? So let's break down how the different ways eggs are raised. Chickens are raised to produce the eggs. So
we can start with conventional because we're in America, and conventional eggs are the most common, the most affordable. They're going to be the cheapest ones on the shelf when you're looking at them. Unfortunately, these hens are kept in confined spaces, very close together. There's little to no room to move. They're often fed a diet of grains. They receive growth hormones, sometimes or most of the time antibiotics. And the quality of nutritional content is probably going to be the least.
Yeah.
So I would say they have no direct contact with sunlight.
Would you say conventional? Because this is what I consider caged.
Yes.
Conventional and caged. Would that be
same
similar?
Thing, yeah. You could even say, there's a number of words that you can use. Conventional just meaning the way that America is producing our eggs, but also the other word would be industrialized.
Okay.
Agriculture. So now, like we're doing this as like more of a assembly line, basically.
Yeah.
The more we can get, the more money we can make, right? The more we can produce, and so it's more about the quantity than the quality of even caring for the animal. We could go way deep into this, and I don't really want to. So, like, we're just looking at this as the production in America of eggs is in the conventional way that we've been doing this for maybe the past 50 years, I want to say. It might be a little less, and this is something I didn't look up, is when we've started to industrialize our egg production.
Yeah,
so
I think it was like in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Which makes sense. And like, of course, the feed now can be GMO feed, and we know that that's probably closer to the 90s. So if we say 30 to 50 years where we're in in the time frame that eggs have been raised like this.
Yeah.
So again, they're going to be the least amount of nutrients, if any at all, with the way that they're being produced and the way that the hens are living. With that being said, do we know like how much of the research is around that specific egg that's coming out to be a more negative aspect of the benefit or risk of eggs, right? We don't know. So that's why we're giving you this overview of all the different.
Yeah. And sometimes too, just before you move on to the next one, like we don't know the nutrients, and we've talked about this in other things. Like sometimes you might not know the positives, but you can probably start to define some of like the negatives that are coming from eating things that are, genetically like modified and that are raised, whether it's, meat or chickens or whatever, in ways that are not natural to them. And so knowing that there's not only maybe a question of what nutrients you're actually getting, but on the same note, you are getting things in your body that are harmful too. And so as we go deeper into kind of each level of how they're raised, you're going to see how the nutrients goes up and maybe the harmful things go down.
Yes. And being really careful, because I want to say too that like if you're going out to eat, it's not a farm to table restaurant. And I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, these eggs are conventional eggs. They are caged hens. And that's what you're getting. So maybe like in thinking of that might not be the best choice.
Yeah.
If you're out to eat.
Yeah, if that's important to you. And a lot of times the caged eggs or the conventional are going to be the cheapest ones on the shelf because of their purpose of mass production.
Yeah. And then there's cage-free eggs. So this is a big one because people think, oh, if I just get cage-free eggs, I'm checking the box and I'm doing better. So cage-free hens are not confined to small battery cages, but they're allowed to roam around the barn or the warehouse, but there's still thousands of hens surrounding them. So there's still not a lot of space. And while they're not caged, they are still kept in overcrowded conditions. And typically they don't have any access to the outdoors still. So that's like a big thing. If you are eating something that claims to be high in vitamin D, if they're not getting any sunlight, then the amount of vitamin D that you're getting from that food source is probably very limited as well. So, the quality of the living conditions is not great. So these are, again, they're still industrialized, scaled operations.
Yeah, and they're eating a lot of the same feed and stuff like that. So their kind of life is still being controlled by the manufacturer or human. Their natural process of living and nature and eating, grass-fed foods or, is not happening. And so that's going to trickle down to how they grow and what they then produce.
Yes. And then we move on to free range eggs, which they're given some access to the outdoors, but the time spent can vary. It's not any specific amount of time. The USDA does require a minimum of 5 minutes of outdoor access.
It sounds like my kids at recess.
Right.
Oh, I wonder how they time that for the thousands and thousands.
Let's just throw out 5 minutes.
Yes.
You can be in the sun for 5 minutes. I mean, think about that as a human, right?
I know.
I always think of this, when I'm thinking about anything that I eat, when I was eating animal products, I would always think I want that cow to be loved.
Yes. And
cared for and massaged.
Yes. Our first guest we ever had, Pat, he said that, the emotions of the animal and how they're cared.
Makes such a connection.
And it makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even with yourself, if you got no sunlight all day, you're stressed, you might be angry.
Yeah.
It's like not getting nutrients in your day. You're upset and your body is not functioning, your body systems aren't functioning. So think about these animals that then we're taking a byproduct from them that's not going to be the highest quality that we should be receiving from them. So 5 minutes is funny. So these eggs may be a bit better quality than the conventional eggs because they have slight better conditions, but it's not going to be that much of a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, to be able to say these things on the labels, the manufacturer has to prove something, but it's not like detailed. They're not like writing a log of like, this chicken was here and this chicken was, it's still like very.
And the timer goes off after 5 minutes.
Yeah. And the next round goes out. It's still very broad and a little suspect in terms of kind of that middle space. So just as the consumer, you just want to be mindful of that.
Absolutely. Then we have pasture-raised eggs. These are allowed to free roam outside, usually on grass. And they're typically given more than the free range or the cage-free space outside. There's a square footage around 108 feet per bird. So these hens are fed more natural diet that includes grass and insects and seeds, the things that they should be eating. And they're considered a higher quality in terms of taste, nutrition. They have higher omega-3s, more vitamins, and of course, animal welfare appreciates the fact that they get 108 feet per bird.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. So looking at that, it goes cage-free, free range, and then pasture raised. So if you're in the store and you have that option, you want to do the pasture raised. But then on top of that, let's talk about organic and non-organic.
Yep. So then there's organic eggs that come from the hens that are raised on organic feed. Now, remember that if this is where it starts getting tricky.
Yes.
If it's not a pasture-raised organic egg, and it is a cage-free organic egg or conventional, you can't really have a conventional organic egg, but an organic egg that has no other guidelines, they can still be eating things that they shouldn't be eating, right? So they're allowed to free roam, and whether or not they're allowed to free roam outside is going to depend on whether they're pasture-raised or free-range. So those are things that you need to look at. But no synthetic pesticides, no fertilizers, no GMOs for the organic eggs. They must be kept in conditions that are similar to free-range and have access to outdoors, but there are still not as strict regulations as there are on pasture-raised.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Organic eggs tend to have a higher quality nutritional content, more omega-3s, and they're not exposed to any antibiotics or hormones.
Yes.
Yay, yes. Organic eggs.
Yay. So organic pasture-raised eggs would be the one you want to choose in an ideal space.
Yep.
And so before you make that other point, just like what Jenine said, so organic eggs are raised without antibiotics, hormones, pesticides. So in turn, the eggs that are not organic are fed, and they have, whether it's through the soil or their living conditions or their food they ate, they are taking in antibiotics and hormones and pesticides. So that's a real simple way to look at it. So you can look at all the like labeling or whatever, but point blank, and we talked about this, a few weeks ago when we did the organic one. Organic is something that you should have some confidence behind purchasing. Yeah. And so to ask yourself the question, I am choosing either something that's filled with hormones, pesticides, antibiotics, other things that I'm not even sure of, or I'm choosing not to have that in my product that I'm buying. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty powerful, clear choice.
Yeah. And the other thing, and I'm going to continue, there's like 5 more options. 4 more options. But I want to say this because we're seeing a lot of labeling on the eggs now too. They're enriching them with things. So our next label would be omega-3 enriched eggs. So these are hens that have had supplemental diet with flaxseed or fish oil. So this doesn't mean anything other than that. Typically, if they're enriching their food, they may have been raised conventional or cage-free, but their feed is designed to just boost the omega-3 fatty acid content.
Okay.
So it's interesting because it is beneficial for heart health and inflammation reduction, but then it doesn't mean that they're organic or that they're not using anything synthetic or anything like that. So the number one, and I don't want to say this, the number one I'm going to say in the grocery store would be your pasture-raised organic, unless there's a pasture-raised organic local.
Yes.
Which is probably not around here, something that you're going to see. But those pasture-raised organic eggs, they're going to have the highest standards because they're getting both the standards of pasture-raised and the standards of organic. So they have access to outdoors. They are fed the organic feed. They're free from those synthetic chemicals, pesticides. They're free from the GMOs. These are also the eggs that tend to come from smaller, more humane operations. So the quality of these eggs are considered gold standard for the industry for both nutritional value and animal welfare.
Yeah. And when you're like, if you know the difference between the two, I feel it with like fruits and vegetables too. Like if you open or if you crack an egg that is organic and pasture raised, and if it's from a farm and fresh versus like a conventional egg, like it's two totally different things. Like the color of the yolk, it's just like,
and they can be all different.
Yes,
and it's like,
and the shells are different. Like sometimes it's pretty cool.
It's cool, and I have to say this because this Americanized way of thinking, like it's the same thing as the first time you hear, "Are they cage free?" You're sort of like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Right? Like I remember seeing eggs that were made like that were got at very locally, and they're all different colors and they're all shapes are different, and they're like, some of them have dots on them, some of them are bright, some of them are, but like you see that, and as an American that we expect everything to be the exact same, right? Like you look at the apples, we want them to be shiny. We don't want any dents in them. They have to be perfect looking, right? So I think that it's hard for us to look at something that's imperfect and think that that's a better option.
Yeah.
So think about that, because just like we are all different sizes, coloring, shapes, we like making up that diversity is the best way to look at it.
Yeah.
So then the next one would be local and small farm eggs. So if you're buying these from a local or small family-run farms, they might not be certified as organic or free range, but they could still be produced the same way. Most of the time, if you have a small farm, family owned, they're caring so much about those chickens, they might be like loving them.
Yes. They might be the happiest
They must be the happiest. So they're often raised in a more natural, sustainable environment. So thinking about that, like I would say that that's maybe the second option, is to find that local small farm and support them. Certified humane eggs are also a label that we see in the grocery store. And these are more, they're certified by the Humane Farm Animal Care Program. So this ensures that the hens are raised under specific welfare conditions. This includes space, food, environment, and enrichment. So they're given a certain amount of space to roam, access to food and water. They also have access to outdoors, and they're able to engage in their natural behaviors. So the quality is definitely higher compared to conventional eggs, but there's no other certification under that humane certification. So they could still be fed a diet that has synthetic chemicals, pesticides, etc. And then there's non-GMO eggs. So these eggs are from hens that are not fed genetically modified feed. The feed is carefully selected, and it doesn't contain any GMOs, which is important for consumers concerned about GMOs. We should all be concerned about GMOs, just as a side note. But the eggs themselves may not differ in nutritional value. Some consumers prefer the option for ethical or health reasons. But again, not knowing that they're pasture-raised and organic is leaving out those two most high-quality terms that you want to see. So the terms that you want to keep in mind are organic, because that's referred to the feed and the farm practices, which are free of synthetic chemicals, pesticides, and GMOs. free range versus that pasture raised, which is free range implies just outdoor access versus pasture raised, which is better quality, more space, and a higher quality of life.
Higher quality of life,
yes.
Yeah.
Which would in turn give you a higher quality of life.
Exactly, yeah.
And then there's the cage free, which hens aren't in cages, but they're still really crowded.
Yes. No light.
And it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I mean, think about if you had to stand next to all of your friends and family and be in a really tight room that you can't move more than a half an inch.
All day, every day.
Yeah, you might be punching them in the head by the end, and that's similar to what's happening
totally.
in these places.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and those are our terms. So
yeah, so you can see how going to the store and seeing all of those on the shelf can be overwhelming. And I think a lot of people either have their one go-to. I know I definitely was a person at one time that was confused and I thought cage-free eggs were a great choice, a better than choice, and not really understanding each stage of how they're raised or each the differences between. So if you're going to the grocery store and you have all those in front of you, and you are either swayed by the price or you're swayed by just the not maybe having that depth of knowledge, just exactly what Jenine said is going mainly organic, pasture raised. You're going to probably have the best quality if you're not getting it from a local farm or whatever. And that's the simplest way, I think.
Yes. And here's a thought, instead of looking at the price and thinking, okay, so I'm paying $7.99 for the pasture-raised organic eggs, and the regular large eggs are $3.99 or whatever it is. And don't quote me on egg prices right now. But what you should be thinking of is maybe one egg every few days as a side dish might be the way to go versus 3 to 5 eggs in a main dish, and then you're getting through this, you know what I mean? So as we speak through the possible benefits versus risks, what we did find that is without question is that cultures that do have eggs are not overeating eggs. Yeah. They're not a main dish, they're a side dish. They're having them once in a while throughout their week, but not every day and not more than one. Yeah. So in thinking that way, and you are having eggs that may be in other things. Yes. So there's things to think about like that. So
yeah. So let's talk about that. Why, to me, a lot of people consume larger quantities of eggs is for the thought behind protein. I want more protein in my diet. I, am lifting, or I just generally just want a source of protein. I'm going to get it from eggs. And the thing about it is eggs do have protein. They have 6 grams of protein per egg, which is not a ton. Right. And so it's great. It's
the ratio per protein per calories is not huge.
Yes.
So it's interesting.
If you really do, if your goal is to make a protein impression, you do need to eat a lot of eggs. But then what does that a lot turn into? And so it's just kind of perspective of really what is the goal? Is the goal health, or is the goal this kind of blinders on? I'm just focusing on this one kind of task at hand.
And to push pause for 1 second, because I know when we get into the macros, I just need to reiterate, and we've said it multiple times, if you're eating a diverse diet that is giving you an abundance of nutrients, and you are limiting your processed foods and eating a diet full of whole foods, you most likely do not need to think about the breakdown of macros. No. So I think it's really important to reiterate that. Yeah. And state that over and over and over again, because when something is trending, or there's something that is the next fad or the next thing, we cannot stop thinking about it. Yeah. And we just replay it like that song that gets so nauseating. Yes. In nauseum, we just keep hitting play over and over again. We need to remember that there are things that we are struggling with in America. Nutrients is definitely one of them. Fiber is definitely another. Protein is not a problem.
Yeah.
So I just need to like jump in and say that, because I feel like as soon as we open that door, everyone just thinks like, this is all I have to think about. More protein, more protein. We're looking at labels for protein. So when you look at the big picture, if we're looking at labels, there's a big problem to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? So really stepping back and saying to yourself, okay, let me look at my diet as a whole, and am I getting a really good nutrient-rich diet that's mainly coming from whole foods? And then if that is a yes, then you can start breaking other things down.
Yes.
Right? Like if I came to you as a client and was like, so I eat, fast food once a day, and then I have pizza for dinner, and I'm having pasta for lunch, and should I be eating a protein bar? You'd be like, well, let's start.
Yes.
Start with this, right? Like, so just thinking about, let's look at the big picture rather than honing in on just
one thing. Yeah. And even too, and like just as an extension to that, like we're getting a little more detailed today because that's what the bottom line is. But, I am confident that we both would say counting your eggs and being overly stressed about how many you're eating, like you use your gut. And if you're looking at your food intake as a variety of food, a variety of nutrients, a variety of colors, you're not going to be eating, all eggs on one plate if that is your overall goal.
Right.
Or anything, if you're a big slab of meat or just a salad without any other thing on it and just lettuce and tomatoes. So, when you are eating, the way that Jenine just said, is that it really is freedom. Like, you don't have to count. You don't have to get overly stressed because you have confidence to know that the variety of foods that you're eating has the nutrients that our bodies need. And then in turn, it's going to do what it needs to do.
Right. So, and you start to realize that too. Like, I feel like the more you understand like what you're getting out of your plate and your food, like when you look at that salad, you're like, oh, I have beans on there and they're providing me with protein, or I have chicken, or I have tofu, and I have all these crunchy vegetables, and I have all this fiber, and, there's healthy fats on there. And you start to sort of just glance at something and know that
what's missing.
Yeah. And so if you have things like that have a variety of all those things every time you have a meal, then you're definitely not having to be concerned with
numbers.
I need 30 grams.
Yes. 100%.
I just think that puts too much stress and strain on, and stress, it hurts our body systems, people.
Definitely. So let's talk a little bit more about what is in an egg. So we're going to laugh every time we say that because it sounds like we're
put all your eggs in one basket.
So we said protein. It has 6 grams of protein. What else is in the nutrients?
Biotin.
Yep.
It's a natural form of vitamin D.
Vitamin D. Yep.
Some
B vitamins. Yep. There is calcium, some iron, some zinc. It really does have.
I think it too depends on what they're eating. So we always
So let's talk about keep our thoughts in these next couple little bit in the good egg.
To good eggs.
The good egg. So it has really a variety of vitamins, minerals, and things that sometimes it is challenging to get, like an iron or for some people iodine, zinc. So there is benefits. Choline, which is a essential nutrient that impacts our brain. So one of the studies that I kept reading is that eggs are supportive of brain health, and that people who do incorporate eggs into their diet have less likelihood of Alzheimer's or brain health related diseases. And so
the interesting thing about choline, which this is one of the things I want to do more research on, is the studies that were showing a higher risk in cancers, they believe it was due to the higher amounts of choline.
Okay. And
so that's something that we sort of need to dive a little bit deeper into, which we're not going to be able to do today, but looking into that specific mineral nutrient.
No, it's a nutrient essential. Yeah. It's actually not a vitamin or mineral.
Yeah. So,
So if you were to read about eggs or talk to someone, they would say, that nutrients or brain health is a benefit of it, whether there is more to like learn about that or not, or if in fact it does have some benefit, but some negative attached to it. But bottom line is that eggs do have a bunch of nutrients in it, and they can be impactful for our overall health. What would be some things, or what are some concerns that people may have regarding eating eggs? I mean, heart disease and cholesterol
cholesterol is the biggest one. Which is a tough topic in the nutrition world.
Yes.
That there are many experts that believe that we've been sort of lied to about cholesterol.
Yep.
And then there are the experts that still wholeheartedly believe that saturated fat is extremely bad for us and that it is causing heart disease and type 2 diabetes and then turns into heart disease. And so there's, that. And then there are risks of the more animal products we have, the higher our cancer risks. So of course there are all of those things that worry, that are a concern for people that are concerned about eating eggs.
Yeah, I would say that, one, our bodies need cholesterol. If you're not familiar with cholesterol, there's good cholesterol, HDL, and LDL.
We produce that cholesterol.
Yes, and our bodies naturally produce it. Mm-hmm. And then there's the bad cholesterol, LDL, which is mainly from trans fat, saturated fats, and processed type of foods. Yeah. Again, theme, if you're eating whole, real, healthy foods, variety, you're not going to get that, and you shouldn't really have too many concerns about cholesterol unless there's some sort of genetic or pre-existing thing that's happening.
Right. And that was a really big question for me too, with like the studies that are showing the negative impacts on the eggs. What was the control for the rest of the diet, right? So if somebody's eating a diet like very rich in processed foods and heavy, high-fat diets in other areas, then how are they controlling for what's in the egg? Because we know that they're not just eating eggs.
Yeah, which is often what came up is, the bad rap that eggs got is it the egg or is it the bacon and the frying and the other things that are being paired with the egg that's causing more of an issue, or is it the actual egg itself? And I would say probably it's a combination of many different things for many different people. But I will say that, telling people eggs you should be scared of them, you shouldn't eat them, you should only have the egg white, you should, they're going to cause heart attacks or heart disease. I think that is definitely something that was overblown and has become a myth, and it's our all or nothing type of thing. Yeah. Eggs, the yolk is the nutrient dense part. The white of the egg has the protein in it. And so when you are eating eat the whole egg. I think what starts to happen is that people think about heart disease or they think about cholesterol and they're like, okay, well, I want the protein from the egg, so I'm just going to drink all these egg whites and then take out the nutrients that are really in the yolk, which is also why are we eating? We're eating for nutrition. So maybe have less of the whatever it is, less of it, but have the whole thing, And so I think that if you're at home and you are nervous about eating and incorporating eggs here and there, good quality eggs into your diet, and it's something that you want to do, and overall you're eating well and you're moving your body, I would say that is an outdated thought process. But if you are eating crappy and you are pairing your eggs with grease and all of these other things, then I wouldn't blame it on the egg. I would look at the big picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also want to just say there are other foods that you can get these nutrients in. So you're not bound to eating them. Like I don't like that all or nothing mentality. Like, okay, so we're giving you this option. Yes, you can find pasture raised organic eggs with all these nutrients. Now you have to eat eggs.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not what we're saying. We're giving you the big picture so that you can make these decisions. And same thing on the other side. If you stopped eating eggs because you thought that they were bad for you, if you have a really nutrient-rich diet and you want to bring eggs back into your diet, maybe you start with just one as a side dish on your like vegetable hash that you made for breakfast, or something, sweet potatoes, and you wanted to throw an egg on top or whatever it is, but that you're having that like nutrient-rich meal and that you're adding this in. I feel like if we, in a perfect world, if we could look at foods like singularly in studies, we'd realize more of the benefit risk ratio. But because, especially in the American SAD diet, we really can't see that definition, that line defining what, how much of one thing is leading to another.
Yeah.
Is probably what I want to say. Like you just said, like if you're eating the grease along with the egg, then wow, how much influence did that greasy meal have on the outcome of how risky that meal was versus how much benefit did the egg have, right? So again, I think you need to like eyes wide open of what we're actually looking at.
Yeah. And again, it's that common sense thing. If you're, and I 100% know it happened, like there was a fear that a lot of people had with heart disease, cholesterol, eggs. But then what are you eating instead of that? So if you were having, scrambled eggs and a piece of toast for breakfast, and then you were like, I'm scared I can't have the eggs, did you just start eating just the toast or, a bowl of cereal or the Pop-Tart or the Dunkin' Donuts and then it's like common sense is like, okay, I'm nervous and I get it because people who have this is their profession are telling you like, halt, stop, don't eat this.
Yeah. And another psychological thing, like how funny is it that we can say, oh, the egg's bad. Let's go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes. But that is like a real thing that has happened. And part of that is happened in the industrial age as we started to come more into big food, obesity, all of that stuff is because we stopped using some of that common sense. And like this is a great example of that, is that so to say, no, I'm scared, but now I'm going to go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. That
doesn't really make sense, but it does make sense for a lot of people because they are either being told what to do without critical thinking or they're just kind of their heads down in the sand. Yeah. And so to even kind of take a step back with any food that is real and whole and natural, there's a lot of different ways that it can be raised or different points of views. Some people have strong points of views that animal products are not great for you. Some people have strong points of views that, some person crazy, we talked about fruits and vegetables being bad. I don't think many people have that point of view.
That's definitely
but like fats or like whatever it might be. There are points of views and there are probably studies and research that can support different thoughts of, what benefits you most or not. What is hard to see is each human individual and their own body and the body that they've lived in 30, 40, 50, 60 years and their personal goals and their health. And so that's really when we take this information and we're like, okay, I'm informing myself and then I am going back to what I know is true, that everything we need is already in us. We know the common sense. We know to eat food that comes from high quality sources, from the ground, from animals, from whatever it might be. And then you choose what's best for you, what aligns with your body, what your body's telling you, what aligns with your morals. And like sometimes people, might not want to eat animal products. They can even recognize that there's health in them, but it might not feel great to them.
Yeah.
So to really understand that at the end of the day, there is never going to be a black or white beyond the fact that our bodies survive, live, thrive off of food that we understand.
Yeah.
And so if that's kind of your backbone in decision making, then you can like learn off of that point. And I think eggs is one of those things, is that some of the things over the years have been like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, no, that you're not going to replace this with that, you know?
Right.
But also to understand why people might make decisions based on not even health, like a trend, or, you know, I see a lot with menopause and midlife women is protein, and kind of just like almost like that is what you're building your meal around.
Yeah.
And it's just it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, even if your focus is that, though, you have to be careful again that we're not looking to labels to adopt this or to meet our minimums, right? Like we should be looking at food first.
Yes, and feeling our body.
And so, yeah, I think that it's scary how much like that's an influence.
Yeah, and we give to other people for our own decision making. I will say one reason that I personally eat eggs, I don't eat them, I won't have any for a couple weeks, and then I can feel eggs is one of those things that I'm sure it's maybe like a protein or maybe it's an iron or something, but I can actually feel when my body is telling me like
you want them.
I want them. There's something. Yeah. But I like them because of often like the convenience of them. Like if I don't want to make a big dinner and I feel like I want a little bit of protein, or if I want, you know, something that if they feel comforting to me for some reason, like I will just quickly scramble up some eggs or my husband likes hard-boiled eggs. There is a convenience behind them that I think is beneficial when someone is learning to or choosing or committing to eating more whole, real, healthy food. Sometimes meat or some things that take a lot of cooking or a lot of time can feel overwhelming. And I think eating eggs in a moderation form, like kind of like, as you said, as more of a side than a main dish, can
with
be
the asterisk next to moderation.
Yes, because we know we love that word. But you get my point. Is that there is a convenience to that. It is within 5 minutes you can have something on. My boys love sometimes breakfast for dinner type of thing, and I know that I'm giving them something that's good too. We're not going through the the McDonald's drive-through, and so again, it's that like perspective and decision making,
and that better than
definitely.
I feel like I haven't gone out. Well, no, that's not true. I don't really eat eggs in my like day-to-day diet, but I'm not on a mission to avoid them 100%. Of course, I want pasture-raised organic eggs. Yes. Like I made matzo ball soup a couple of weeks ago, and like I put eggs obviously in the matzo balls. If I've gone to a farm-to-table restaurant and I've had eggs Benedict on like a special occasion, but to me that's how I have them in my diet. It's very rare for me. Again, I would say that my bottom line is that we need to remember that they shouldn't be the whole plate, and that we can have them in our diet in a more balanced way where we're getting those nutrients. But if there is a higher risk, especially for certain people, that it's not your a major part of your diet. So with the information that we have found in the research that we've done thus far, I feel like I would choose less. Mm-hmm. I would get the pasture-raised organic because they are expensive. So you're not buying 24 eggs, you're only buying one, and hopefully they last you a couple weeks versus 1 week. Obviously, depending on how many people you have in your family. But still, thinking if you would normally buy 2 or 3 cartons for a family of 4, you can buy 1 carton for that family of 4 and still get the nutrient value out of that food and not kill your wallet and have a lower risk of anything that might be a risk in that food.
Yeah. I would say my bottom line is if you enjoy eggs and you feel comfortable eating them, then go ahead and do that. Choose your quality, like Jenine said, pasture-raised, organic. I think eggs are a great option for people who are looking to have some more convenience in their meal prep or in what they're planning for their day or their family. So having them in your fridge, I think, can come in handy to make a quick decision versus grabbing something crappy or not at all. And I do think it's one of those things that some people's bodies may feel like they thrive with a little bit more, and some people's bodies, like you said, may feel like a little bit less. And I think if you're in touch with yourself, you can or you're in touch with what your body's telling you, you can kind of feel what is best for you. Yeah. At the end of the day, I really will stand by, and I know you will too, that if it is something that you can trace where it comes from, where it comes back, and it is grown, raised, cared for in the very best way, most likely that's not going to be the problem in your diet. Right. That there's going to be benefits to eating that, and that's how I feel about the egg. So how many times do you think we said the word egg in this last 45 minutes or however long? A lot.
It's been a long
conversation. And hopefully you guys at home aren't I probably could not be the most exciting conversation, but I do feel like a lot of people have had these questions of good or bad, what should I buy, what should I not, what are the reasons behind it?
Well, it's confusing, and I think breaking it down like we did gives a little bit more insight as to making that choice more educational decision.
Totally.
And you have that knowledge behind you now to make that choice. So I hope
hopefully this was helpful for you, and the next time you go to the store, you look at eggs a little differently. And if you have any questions or if you want to suggest any bottom lines, always feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at It's Already In You podcast on Instagram. And otherwise, we will be back here real soon with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.